Hi, and welcome back to Craft Along with Jay. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Yara, and I am so happy you could all join me today. Today, I have three easy Valentine's decor DIYs for you. Let's jump right into it. For project number one, I picked up this three-heart um, hanging decor piece from the Dollar Tree, and we're just going to use one of the hearts. So I'm just going to cut that little plastic connecting thing and separate them, and I'm going to put two of them to the side for other projects. And then we're gonna work on taking the tinsel off. We are not gonna need that at all. So I just had to cut a piece to start unwrapping it. It's actually on there pretty good. But once you cut a little piece, it's easy to take it off. It's not glued on except for what the beginning and at the end. So you just unwrap it. And I'm not gonna use the tinsel for anything, so I do not save it. I end up just putting it in the trash. And then I'm gonna cut off that little tip part. That's the little hanger. I'm gonna cut that off. And then also that little round circle at the bottom, which you could put it connect it to another heart. So I need to cut both of those off. And then I got this yarn from the Dollar Tree as well. It's quite fluffy and soft. Um, but I'm gonna use that to wrap around the heart, and I get it started here. Put down a piece on the back and flip it up a little bit towards the front, and then I glue it down as you see right here. Then I put the other piece on top. And I thought I could get away with it like this and just wrap, but those little dots that's sticking out at the top and also on the inside, um, that did not work for me because you couldn't really cover it. So I end up having to snip those off as well. And in the beginning, you'll see me try to do this the hard way. And then I'll show you an easier way once I figure it out myself. Yeah, here's where I'm kind of like, well, this is not going to work. So I was trying though. You're going to give me credit for that. But yeah, it's not working. So I just use my little snip here to kind of get those off. As you see, it's just snip it right in there, close to the ring. And I was kind of struggling with it a little bit, but I really needed to get them off because it didn't work for what I'm doing. So then I switched to the scissors, and man, it went flying. It was working. So this is the best way to do it on the outside of the heart. I got them off in no time. The inside of the heart was a little bit more difficult because the scissors are so big and I don't have a smaller one. So I do have to go in, yep, you see right here, go back in with those and cut. But we get it off eventually. I'm just kind of working my way around. The ones in between I wasn't too worried about because they weren't sticking out and they weren't going down too far. So they get covered regardless. So those we don't have to worry about. So here I'm back to I can start wrapping it with my yarn. And in the beginning, because of the curve of the heart, I do have to add some hot glue and glue the yarn down so that way it wouldn't slip. So in the beginning, I do it pretty much every time I come around, but once we get going, then every now and then I'll add a dab of glue. I don't know how many times I wrap it, but you can kind of tell when you need it. Once it starts sliding and it's not staying close together, then you just add some glue so that way you don't have a gap or anything like that. See, I'm about halfway on around, and then we still got another half a heart to cover. And here at the bottom, you do the same thing, just add a dab of glue, and then you can wrap some more. And you do that until, it hold itself, and you can wrap several times before you need to add some more glue. But you, like I said, you can tell when once there's a gap, it won't stay put. You just add a dab of glue. It's no biggie. There's the heart covered. Almost, not almost, already a better look than the tinsel. Then I got this wood cutout heart from the Dollar Tree as well. And I'm removing the hanger. And then I got this scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby that we're going to use. And I'm going to use my Elmer's glue stick right here. I like to use that for my scrapbooking paper. So I'm just making sure I get all the corners, all the way to the corners, all the way around. So that way when you put the paper down, it's not going to lift around the edges. And I just work in sections. So here I do half of the heart and then I'll do the other half in a second. So I'm just going to line up my paper and then press it down, and especially around the edge to make sure it sticks. And then I'll just turn it around and I'll do the other side as well. And still making sure you get out to the edge with the glue stick. And then press it down the same way, making sure you're at the edge. Then I'm just using my sanding block and I'm gonna go in and sand all the way around the heart to get the excess paper off. And you make sure you do it in a downward motion, because if you do upward, you may lift the paper. So it's very important to do it in a downward motion. And then I got this rig rack trim from the Dollar Tree. It's the very skinny one. And I'm going to use that as the edging around the big heart. But first, we're going to hot glue the yarn heart down onto the bigger heart. And I'm trying to determine where to put the glue, because there is a little bit of lift on the back, on the outer edge, on the inner edge. So doing it in the middle is not going to do anything because it wouldn't touch the wooden heart. So I'm going with the outer edge just to make sure the whole thing is going to be secured down. And then I just line it up and press it down. And then we're going to go around with the rickrack trim, just around the edge all the way around. It gives it a nice border, a nice finished look. And it turns out really cute. And just make sure you don't use too much hot glue because it is very thin or slender. So just a little bit of glue so that way it's not going to seep out or show. So yeah, just be careful how much you squeeze on the hot glue gun right here. Just enough to get a little bit, and the trim will cover it. And that's what it looks like. I like it. But we're not done yet. Now we're gonna come in with some of these wildflowers from the Dollar Tree. And here I'm just playing around with how I can best get it onto the bottom of the heart, because I was really set on having it there. But you can, add it wherever you want to do whatever you like. I was just determined to have it at the bottom. So I'm just kind of playing around with placement and how these flowers are going to work for me. And here I'm just pulling them off the stem. So eventually I get to this point, I'm going to lay them on top, going up from the bottom up to on the side a little bit, like you see right here. And then once I'm sure about that, then I'm going to go in with some hot glue. And just at the tip at the bottom, I'm going to add it because I don't want it to lay flush so they can't move. So if I just do the tip, it looks more real going up because it's not secured down. Not that they're going to flop around or anything like that. It just gives it a more natural look, I think. But that's personal preference. You can do it however you want to do it, whatever works for you. So here I'm just cutting the other flowers a little bit shorter. I want it to kind of go, the bottom one being taller and then a medium, then a smaller one, so they're not all the same length. So I just work with however it works for me. And I'm just going to add my little flowers. Sometimes I have to cut some of the leaves off at the bottom too. So when you glue it down, it's not a bunch of leaves at the bottom because that's going to lift it up. So you may need to cut some of the leaves off at the bottom. So it's all going to lay down at flush. And then I'm just gonna make I think it's a 3-loop finger bow. That's what I'm trying to show you right here. And once I have that, I'm gonna take this string and go in between my fingers and come up and then go in under that loop we just made. And then I'm just gonna tighten that up. And then we got a three 3-loop bow. And then I'm just making sure it's secure, and I'm gonna pull that one string. And then I'm gonna hot glue there to the bottom to cover up where we glued the bottom of the flowers, just to kind of cover that up. And this bow does a good job at that. And I love this one. It's very neutral. It's very rustic looking. And then I'm just adding some jute twine as the hanger. I'm just feeding it through and double knotting it. Pretty sure I'm double knotting it. Yeah, I did. And then at the other end, I'm going to cut a piece to the length that I want it to hang. And then I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue to the tip right here. And just let it sit for a second because, hot glue is very hot. Just for a second. And then I'm going to go in and start twisting it so the glue will dry hard on the edge. Then it's easier to string through a hole. And that's what I'm doing right here. And then I'm double knotting that as well. And then I'm going to cut that piece off that's hanging. And then there it is. I think it's absolutely beautiful. What do you think? Would you add some color to it? Or do you like it kind of neutral? For me, I like it kind of neutral. And if you've been here for a while, I do like a pop of color here and there, but for this one, I really like it this way. All right, so let's move on for project number 2. I got 7 stir sticks. I think these are the 1-gallon ones that I just got from Walmart. And I got them lined up horizontally, and I'm going to use some of Dollar Tree's Super Glue Wood Glue. This stuff is really good. So if you haven't tried it, you should give it a try. It works really well. And I'm just going to add like a little bit here on the edge. And I'm just using my fingers to help spread it out. When you do like that, it just seeps out between the pieces a little less. But it will be a little bit of a mess because they're so thin. And I'm just using paper. While I'm holding it, I'm just using some paper towel to wipe off the excess. Like so. And I'm going to glue them all together like that. And then I'm going to use some of this painter's tape just to tape across while it's drying so that way it's not going to move. It's going to stay put. So this is the next day. I let it sit overnight. I took the tape off and I'm using antique wax and stain it. I brush it on. I wipe off the excess. So this is what it looks like. And here I'm going in with some Waverly's chalk paint and plaster and a chippy brush or painter brush here. And dipping it and wiping most of it off or dabbing most of it off in my little tray. And I'm going to distress this piece. I start out with a little at a time so that way I don't want it overly distressed, but not too light either. So it's easy to begin with a light distressing and work your way up versus you have a heavy distressing you can't really scale back. So a little bit at a time. And then I got this wooden heart from the Dollar Tree as well. And it's already slightly distressed in the front, so I'm not going to do anything with the heart itself. And here I'm just cutting off the tag. And then I'm going to just look at the placement of it on my shiplap background. And then here I realized when I'm trying to get my hot glue to glue it down, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to take the hanging piece off because that kind of lifts it up a little bit so it's not laying flush. So, but it's kind of easy to pull off. I just use my pliers right here and pull it right off. And you can also see at the bottom of my wood plank right there, I have a ruler just so I can figure out where the middle part of this piece is. I know where the bottom of my heart is. It gets placed in the middle of my background. And I'm just going to use some hot glue to secure that in place. And then you can see the bottom of the heart is right at 6 inches. So all the way across it's 12 inches. So the middle will be 6. And then I got these little foam red hearts from the Dollar Tree. And these are the small ones. I haven't seen them so far this year. I've had these a couple of years. So the smaller ones are the ones I'm going to use. And then I'm going to start just adding them into the middle of the wood heart and fill that up with the red foam hearts. And I'm just using hot glue to secure those in place. So here I'm just going to go around the perimeter of it on the inside. And then there's still a little space in the middle. I had a few hearts left over, so I'm going to add those in to fill it up as much as I can. And that's what it looks like. I'm going to turn it around in a second for you. There we go. And I like how this looks. Then I also got some red wooden hearts from the Dollar Tree as well. And I'm just going to place some on the outside just to give a little extra pop of color out there as well. And I'm just going to use some hot glue again to add those in there. And here the second heart, I'm going to show this a little dot on the back. It's like a sticker part that doesn't really work. But I'm only going to add a little bit of hot glue to that part. So that way it still has, it sits up a little bit on the wood plank right there. So it's not down flush. And it gives it a little bit extra character, and I like that. And also what you don't see here, I don't know why I didn't film it, but I am adding some tumbling tile blocks to the back of this wood plank just to help it stand up on its own. So it's a shelf sitter. So I'm just gluing some tumbling tile blocks to the back, and I add another layer on top so I can sit. And that's what it looks like. You gotta let me know what you think about this one as well. I love this one. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to project number 3. I got this shadow box from the Dollar Tree, and I've taken those little plasticky, yeah, I think they're just plastic hearts from the front, and here I'm just scraping off the hot glue, the dried hot glue that was behind them, and that scrapes off fairly easy. Then I'm just feeling it's nice and smooth. Then I'm going to go in with Folk Arts Cottage White, and I'm going to give it 3 coats to cover it all up. Then I have a bag here with just some scrap pieces of floral foam, and I'm just going to use a small piece. So this was the perfect piece I found right here. I just need to cut it a little bit. I'm just going to use this little paint scraper for that. And it's really easy to cut down. And I just got to keep measuring because I don't want it to fit the whole ledge of the frame. I want it to go inward a little bit, just a little bit. As you can see, I still got a little bit of space in front of it. And I'm going to use these Scrabble tiles, XOXO. Now, piece of advice, don't glue them on yet. Wait, because I ended up taking them off because it was so hard to get my fingers behind them to add some greenery. So, yeah, you'll see that they're going to come off here in a second. And here I had to go get my Cricut tool to help poke holes in the floral foam because the greenery is very rubbery, very soft, so you couldn't just press them down. So I used my Cricut tool and poked a hole and then add a little bit of hot glue, and then I could just add them in there. And that really worked. You can see one little tile already came off. And here they are coming off. And then I got a little bit of baby's breath. I'm going to add a little bit um, in front of the greenery. Here I have them pushed down kind of far. I ended up pulling them up a little bit so they're a little bit taller just because of the wood tiles, um, just to give it a little bit of space. So here I glued the tiles back on. And because now it's just this piece of baby's breath on the side, and that was easy to do. So that's what it looks like so far. And then I got these red ornament hearts from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just kind of measuring how I want it. But for this first one that's gonna go in the middle, I'm gonna cut the string off, and then I'm just gonna give it a little bit of dab of glue on the back of it and also on the tip of the cap, like so. And then I'm making sure that it's in the middle and the tip of the cap is touching the roof of the frame, if that makes sense. Like so. And I love this purple color already. And then I got two more ornaments, and these are not shiny, they're more matte. And I'm gonna leave the strings on these. I may shorten them up a little bit, but I want them hanging down a little bit further than the middle one. So I'm just gonna make a knot a little bit further down, double knot it. And then I'll cut the tip off. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of hot glue to the back of it and also to the tip of the knot. And then I'm gonna attach that to the roof of the frame on the inside and then the bottom part on the back wall of the frame. And here we're going to do the same thing on the other side. But this one I really struggled with for whatever reason. I had to keep taking it off, putting it back in, and taking the dried hot glue off. It took me a while. It just wasn't working for me like the first one. And I was trying to do it the same way, but it took a hot minute before it all clicked and I got it all set. But I think this purple red color is absolutely gorgeous. And then just a little bit of glue to the back of it, and then attach that down as well. And this is all there's for this one. Very easy, very simple, but I think it's beautiful. So let me know what you think. If you don't like the red purple color right here, you can always paint them to a more neutral color. It's very easy to just dab it a couple of coats, and yeah, it will still look beautiful. So let's take a final look at all three of them. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hype my video. It would really help my channel grow. Until next time.